So I think, you know, when you have a very developed society, you tend to have, markets for every possible input you want. You want electricity, somebody sells electricity. You want to photocopy or you want to print stuff, there is a store that prints stuff for you. You want to design a campaign ad, a television ad, or a cover. There's some people that design that. So you can start a business and buy everything else from the stuff that people produce around you, right? So all of your possible inputs are things that other firms can do for you. So you can start small and buy everything you need from everybody else. When you start in a less developed society, many of those things that you wish you could buy from everybody else are just not there. And maybe you have to self-provide your own electricity. Maybe you'll have to print your own stuff. Maybe you'll have to design your own covers. Maybe you'll have to have all of these things done inside the company because there are no reliable suppliers outside the company. So as a consequence, modern firms tend to start bigger in less developed countries than in more developed countries. In more developed countries, you can just rely on other people doing stuff for you. As a consequence, existing corporations are, in some sense, organizations that have developed the capacity to provide internally things that markets cannot do for them. So once they exist, they have, typically financial capital, they have a managerial capital, they have a reputational capital that allows them to make it much easier for them to start a new line of business. The Silicon Valley way to start a new line of business is that you create a startup. A startup is very easy to create in Silicon Valley or in a very advanced place because everything that the startup needs, it can buy out there. But in a place where you cannot buy everything out there, you cannot start that small. But a corporation, a conglomerate, if it were to decide to diversify into a new line of business, it could just reallocate some of its managers, it could reallocate some of its cash flows, it could because of its reputation, it could do joint ventures with other companies, maybe some foreign company or something that can bring in some technology, and they can do things as a group that a startup cannot do. So that's why I wrote this piece saying, conglomerates can be and were, in the case of Japan and Korea, a fundamental story of the growth process. Japan and Korea diversified because Toyota, Mitsubishi, Daewoo, Samsung diversified internally as conglomerates, right? It's not that just more companies appeared. It's that those companies diversified. So I think that it's an important avenue for growth that a country should consider. But conglomerates can be a force for good or they can be a force for bad. The conglomerates can just become monopolist in one industry, move to the next industry and become a monopolist there, move to the next industry and become a monopolist there, and then suddenly become a huge barrier to entry for other people. It's very important that the conglomerates that do well, and this was the case in Japan and Korea, they are exporters. You tolerate conglomerates because they are exporters. And exporters, a conglomerate that only sells domestically, it's like one of the local football teams. A conglomerate that exports is like the national team. It's like the one that's playing at the World Cup. It's facing massive competition from other companies in other countries. So it deserves all the support of society. But a conglomerate that only sells domestically, it has the danger of just becoming the local monopolist and stifling everybody else from competing against them. So conglomerates can be a stepping stone, can be an avenue for growth, but they have to be good conglomerates.